It's Doc Rivers. I'm coach of the Philadelphia 76ers, and I'm going to give you a minute to let people join. And while we're doing that, I want to explain to you why I'm here. And I'm here for the Mental Health Coalition handle for their incredible 31 Days in May project for Health Awareness Month. My buddy, my golf ATM machine, Kenneth Cole, launched this project for the MHC. Thanks for including me, Kenneth. These days, there's only these conversations that I've seen are from all kinds of people of walks of life, athletes, entertainers, I guess coaches and ex-athletes. And we're really here for mental health and just to open ourselves up. Today, I'm going to be talking to my good friend, I guess I would call Kevin Love an NBA All-Star, but more importantly, I would call him, an opponent and a friend, which is interesting in basketball. You can actually really want to beat someone and really be their friend at the same time. I guess that's Athwards. Number 0, Kevin Love. So without further redo, I would like to bring in Kevin.
That was pretty seamless. That wasn't too bad.
Listen, I don't know how I did it. This is obviously not anything. The technology part of this is all new for me. So this is my first time ever doing this.
Oh, wow. Yeah, listen, I'm on a team now that I think is like the second or third youngest team in the league. So I pick up a book, I start talking about wine, I start talking about art, I start talking about all these things. It's lost on them. They're great dudes, but still, like 13 years in versus 1 to 3 years in is a little different conversation than I used to have. So,
well, Kevin, first of all, if you bring out a book, they're probably going to say, "What's that?
What the hell is that?" Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've never read a book.
That's exactly right.
So, Kevin, tell me about you. Tell me when you started, dealing with anxiety attacks and depression. I'm assuming that started in the NBA.
No, it was actually before. I can remember some of my earliest memories, especially of my anxiety, was probably around 13 years old. Really in some of my most formative years, middle school, high school, and high school is really when the depression started as well. I started just getting these dark moments within my life, and I wasn't really able to connect the dots and look back until maybe my mid or late 20s. So it was something that I didn't really look in the mirror and said, hey, I need to deal with this. This is something I can put to the side. I'm so blessed, and we're so blessed, like you mentioned, being able to be in this league for so long. This league has given us so much, and this basketball has given us so much that I thought, I don't have to work on this. I get paid a ton of money to put a ball through a hoop. I get to impact so many people with my platform through basketball, but I didn't realize there was such a larger and bigger community that I could go through some of this struggle with and actually become better for it. So it came to a point in my life where I had a very public panic attack. And it was something that it was extremely tough. The situation I was in at the time and the number of pillars in my life had fallen to where it just didn't feel like it was worth it anymore. So I had this very public panic attack. And then that soon thereafter was when I said, okay, I need to start going to therapy. And
the panic attack was in 2017, right?
November 5th against, your old team, the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah.
At home. So, it was around my teammates. It was around the organization. I felt like I had to hide for so long. I had to suffer in silence. And it wasn't until early March of that year that I actually shared some of my story for the first time. And, since then, and, sitting here now, really 3 years later, having started my fund and started really talking about this, really throughout the course of my life, it's just taken on a life of its own and become something really special in my life, where it's not only been, super healing for myself, but thankfully, as we had talked about, just playing in the NBA and having the global reach that we have now, that this community and the impact that we're able to have is so much larger than it has been in the past. So for that, I'm extremely thankful.
Does it come at any time, like when you have anxiety? Is it before game? Could it be just on, in the morning? Is there certain times or any time that you can have?
It's anytime. I mean, I even feel it now, even though this conversation is so easy and having, speaking about anxiety, depression, mental health issues has become a lot easier for me. It's never fully, all the way 100%, alleviated or easy, but that feeling in the pit of my stomach, that low level threat is constantly there. And I'm on medication. I know my triggers. I know what helps me in terms of, making it seem a little bit farther away. But at the same time, it's something that I continually, am at odds with. But I've been able to really, master the art of just keeping it at a safe distance. But it's something that I just continue to fight and work on every single day to keep it at bay, for sure.
Well, I can't imagine as an athlete, because we're taught that we're tough.
Right.
We're taught all these different mechanisms. And the one that we're taught the most is never to show a weakness.
Yeah.
And yet, when you sprain your ankle, we get treatment. If you hurt your knee, you do surgery and you get it fixed. Your mind is the most important part of your body.
Right.
And we've gone pretty much, like, for me as an ex-athlete, now a coach, I went my entire career without ever getting, as I say now, my brain taped. I got my ankles taped, but no one taped my brain. What would you say to that?
I've been through a number of different injuries in my career, and I've actually had 3 concussions, and one of them came in the finals in 2016. And, I got hit in the back of the head by Harrison Barnes. And I remember just being so disoriented for about 72 hours. I actually missed game 3 in the finals. And I remember people just saying how soft I was, how, if it isn't something that you can reach out and touch and say, oh, okay, there's something wrong with his knee, or he rolled his ankle and can tape it, people tend to bash it or kind of put it off, or, might even say that you're faking it or you're soft. But, it's those things that you don't see that people don't quite understand. And that's really what I've learned, is that, those type of things where you really can't see it and people can't, like I said, put a finger on it, and they don't feel like it's a part of them. They just don't quite understand it. So I think that's part of the reason that we're here, is having these conversations and speaking about it, and allow people to understand. I know Dr. Michelle Craske will be here and speaking about it, but the numbers are so vast, and it continues to trend in the wrong direction. I think it was from quarter 2 to 2019 to quarter 2 of 2020, anxiety rates tripled and depression rates quadrupled. So it just shows you the long-term effects of this time that are going to have on people, not only in the realm of sports or in the world of sports, but I think people globally, just coming out of this past 12 to 14 months. And I think people will start to pay more attention to the things that they can't see and what's going on internally within the brain and within the body.
Well, one of the reasons I was really looking forward to this conversation, because you're a player and I'm a coach, and you've been around a lot of coaches, right? And for us, we are always trying to push buttons. We're trying to get the best out of our athletes. And I would say, I'm sure that I erred on the wrong side of it. Sometimes you look at a player, he's not responding to me, or what's wrong with him? And so you try all kinds of techniques. You try love, you try video, you try screaming, you try.
Right.
From a coaching standpoint, being a player, is there identifiers for coaches, or is there another way? Like you've seen it. Are there certain ways to get to players? Because they're all different players. They're all different people.
No, I think that's exactly it. Everybody's story is unique. Everybody's story is different, even in how we treat mental health, not only from an athlete's perspective or a sports perspective. It's just not, you can't put somebody in a box and say, hey, this is a one size fits all type of model. I mean, I think, from a coaching standpoint, it's extremely tough just to know how to get the best out of each and every player. I imagine it's the same thing, being a parent as well, understanding how your kids are going to react to certain things just because they're just so different. But I think it's extending an olive branch. It's finding out and being proactive about how to get the best out of them, how to light a fire under their ass, whether it be screaming, whether it be a little bit more of a nurturing type of relationship. But I think it's just understanding your players, and I'm hopeful that in moving forward, I know for myself in particular, especially for this year, like you said, I've had a lot of coaches in my career, whether it be Team USA, whether it be in my 13 years in the NBA, but even with JB Bickerstaff this year, I've just tried to be, even when I was out, an extension of the coaching staff in a way, saying, hey, you can coach me however you need to coach me, but how can I help you? So I think it goes both ways. And in some cases, that's, I think, lost on players. In some cases, the players don't want that. The coaches don't want that. But I think now we're all trying to be part of the solution. I know that's how it is here with the Cavs, but it's honestly a tough balancing act that I think is going to continue to provide a unique solution. And you've done this for so many years, obviously a Hall of Fame coach. You're Hall of Fame right now with KG. I can remember coming into the league. That gave me anxiety going against him for the first time. I'll tell you that. But I think it's definitely a tough juggling act. But I think on both sides, seeing everything in its entirety, we can all do better.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think trust has a lot to do with it. And,
yep.
From a player perspective, coaches want the players to all feel like they're one team. Yet then you have the organization, and so it's the trust and love. And I'm a big believer, obviously, in positive stimulation. The more positive you can be with your players over the negative part of it, it's better. I tell all my coaches 3-to-1, 3 positives, 1 negative, 3 positives, 1 negatives. But then there are players that you need to be more the other way, and so you have to figure it out. I thought the bubble, in a strange way, helped our league and helped our players with mental health, right? Because the bubble, man, was an issue. Like I'm telling you, being in a room for 3 months or 2.5 months and no window. My window didn't open. I know that sounds so strange, but every night I would go back to my darn room and I couldn't open my window. And so you're in a room for 3.5 months, and I thought the league did a great job by having mental health experts.
Yeah.
All. And as each week went, you saw more and more players going and seeking help. So, I don't think it was done for that reason, but I do think we've had a breakthrough in that. And I think that's very important.
And I'll say this to piggyback on that. It's in the bubble in particular. You'd be surprised how many guys actually, a handful of guys reached out to me and said, hey, listen, where do I get started on this? Or I have a family member or a close friend who's really going through it. I mean, as we all know, the last, year plus now has been really tough on all of us, whether it's been COVID, social injustice. I always talk about, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. I was born in Los Angeles. The wildfires that hit the environment and just, tore up all sorts of land, small businesses, took people out of their homes, all the way to the election through now, just coming out of this and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I think, as I mentioned earlier, the long-term effects of this are going to be, really tough on people's brains and maybe even therefore, their physical and their bodies as well. But I think guys being proactive in their approach to mental health and, taking care of family members and really forcing themselves to look inward. A lot of guys at the bubble had mentioned to me just like, hey, this has been really tough. Even the officials, coaching staffs as well, but the officials were like, this was really tough, but even more so now moving into the season, at one point, they were only getting an hour outside a day.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, like the organizations, the officials, the referees, the front office, everybody in their entirety are dealing with this in a different way. And I think the beauty of our league is we have a togetherness and we're up front and out front, with certain issues and a lot of issues, especially in the past year, than most other, major sports. And we were there first. So I think that's what makes us special. And I think the mental health impact and the impact we're able to have domestically, but also globally could really be huge.
Yeah. The last question before I bring in Dr. Craske, because I want a real doctor. Obviously, I'm Doc, but this is social media and just everything public. When I was a player, we had nothing. I didn't know what the fans thought. I didn't know what anyone thought. And now our players have their own Instagram accounts.
Yeah.
They have all these different accounts. They have, right after a game, they're actually communicating with the public.
Yeah.
You know, being able to see more video, you know, the George Floyd video,
Right.
if you have any type of heart, that had to tug at you going through COVID. So what impact do you think that's having on players and just people in general?
Well, I think, see, I like to look at it, you know, I used to be slightly more of a pessimist. I've worked on that quite a bit, but I think it's a little bit of a gift and a curse because in some ways it's been a driving force for me. But, you know, in looking over the last year and understanding I know we joked about it, having the young fellas on the team that I'm on, but using our social platforms for good, understanding our reach. I was, you know, talking to the guys this year. I said a couple of years back, we had a Slovenian rookie of the year. We had a most improved player from the Cameroon. And then we had an MVP from Greece by way of Africa. I mean, that's a global game. That's a global reach. And some of these guys have tens and millions of followers. So being able to play up these messages and be able to the NBA making a PSA and saying, you know, press and go, you're able to reach tens of millions of people, tens of millions of kids by doing this. And I know growing up, for me, I was hanging on every word of these superstars. And this was just, you know, back in the day where it was, you know, Ahmad Rashad and Summer Sanders, like, you know, and it was, then we got into Inside the NBA and we'd be watching Sports Center, all these things. But now it's a click of a button away. And you're able to jump on these IG lives. You're able to tweet out certain things to tens of millions of people. And when, you know, you have these messages being sent to young kids and they're so susceptible to change and their willingness to change is going to be there. And if you can be a positive influence for them and you're in a league, I'm so thankful to be in a league. I know you could probably speak to this as well, that they're not only supporting us in the great things that we want to do. I always talk about Braun because he's right down the street, in Cleveland with the I Promise School. Like, they're not only supporting us, they're a driving force for us. They know that this game is so special and provides us with so many great resources to not only help ourselves, but help other people. I think that is, you know, probably the biggest thing that we can do now is use our resources and use our platforms for good.
Yeah, and I think also as young people, you know,
Yeah.
Excluding me from that young part, but I really do. One of the things about the social justice and the young people are out talking about mental health now. Yeah. Young people are out marching and voting and involved in what I always say, improving our culture. Yeah. I hate that term cancel culture because if the culture's not good, you should cancel it to improve it. Yeah. But I love that it's young people. I think the difference, you know, me growing up in the 60s and 70s, it was more the fathers and the grandfathers, you know, who were out doing all the talking. Now it's the young people, which means this is going to stick and this is going to last.
Yes.
And mental health of that is very important.
No, it's amazing. You're almost looking at I don't know if it's this order, but like advocate, philanthropist, athlete. You're seeing a lot of that now within the NBA and within the realm of sports. So again, like you said, with social injustice and everything that's transpired, just bringing it all to the forefront of conversation. And with young people getting educated, it's a special thing to see.
Well, I think we all should. I think it's all important for us to do that. Let's bring in Dr. Craske, if we can. Okay. I hope I can do this right. I think it would be great to hear from her. She's far more important and probably has way more to say than us.
Yeah, there we go.
All right.
Hello. Thank you so much, guys, for inviting me to this conversation. Great to meet you, Doc, and wonderful to see you again, Kevin. I just wanted to pick up on, I think, a theme that the two of you were talking about, which is the sharing and being able to talk about mental health as a conversation that's just a part of our normal existence and not something to hide. You know, when I grew up, my older brother had very severe emotional problems. And as a family, we kept it to ourselves. We didn't tell anybody. In fact, I was even moved to a completely different school district because my parents were so worried about what if people found out. Now, we have come a long way since then for sure. And the young people are definitely carrying the banner on this one. But we do still have a way to go, and that's why conversations like this are so absolutely important. We've got to move away from hiding from mental health. We have to make it as important as physical health. Because when people hide, it adds more pressure, it adds a sense of isolation, it contributes to the problem, and it really does prevent people from seeking help. And so what Kevin does by talking about his own experiences is he really shines a light on mental health and lets people know it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to get help.
Hey, Doc, I have a question. Why it seems like men struggle with this as far as opening up so much more than women. Women, it seems like, have no problem going to a therapist, going to seek help. You know, usually if you're in a marriage, it's the woman that says, we need help, we need counseling, where the man's like, I don't need to hear anybody. What is that? Yeah,
well, start from the perspective that actually depression and anxiety does affect more women than men in general. There are plenty of men with these conditions. These are very, very common conditions. But women are socialized from an early age to be much more likely to seek the help of others, to whether it be with friends or family or others, to share feelings. Whereas even in today's world, there's still a gender gap in how young men are taught to manage their feelings, to suppress rather than express, to go in different ways. The good news is that when people do go for treatment, both men and women do equally well. So it's going to work just as well.
1 in 3 people, you say, have anxiety?
So actually, when you look at the population at large, I mean, anxiety and depression affect everyone to some degree, right? But it does become impairing in some way. So it reaches a level where it has an impact on up to a third of the population at some time in their lives. So now we're projecting out to the age of 75. So the reality is it's common. These are the most common mental health conditions. And in terms of impact on one's life, these impact lives more than medical conditions when you look at the whole global situation. Disability is more often related to depression than anything else. So extremely common.
Well, Kevin, I'm going to ask her one more question. How would you advise players and coaches on seeking help? Because I still think that's a major issue. I think our league has done a great job of providing the professionals. Now we have to keep pushing coaches and players to seek them out. And most of it, I think, Kevin, you can add, is trust. They don't trust that if I go to you, you're going to come back and tell me everything that, how do we get past that?
Was that a question to Kevin?
To both, really.
Well, Kevin, I'm not sure if you wanted to add in there, but.
Yeah, no, I think that was actually a question that was posed to me by Jackie McMullen, senior writer for ESPN for so many years. This was maybe 2 weeks before I had penned my first story, about my panic attacks and my anxiety. She asked, it was going around the league. She was actually in our locker room probably a month before, speaking to Channing Frye about missing the game due to his heart condition for a year, as well as losing both of his parents within a month span. And I was with him throughout that time. And, she had mentioned that not a lot of players that she's spoken to really wanted to, come out and expose kind of what they were going through, because the numbers speak for themselves. We have 450 players. And even if you take a third of that, that's a lot of players struggling with anxiety, depression, or some sort of mental health problem. And they felt that, hey, coach isn't going to play me. He's not going to trust me in the second half of a game, the last 6 minutes, the last 2 minutes with my decision making, because he might feel some sort of way about this, or the front office. This is my livelihood. I don't feel like I'm going to get paid. So I think it's, just continuing to educate people. I think it's, just to continuing to get out in front of this. There's a stigma. You're far less likely to detect anything or get over anything or better anything within yourself if you're not willing to talk about it. Right. So I think it's that barrier has continued to break down. I think, Doc, you said it even about the bubble too. It just coming to the forefront of conversation. People just being able to speak openly about it, and that's in its entirety throughout the league. So I do think that we are moving in a positive direction, but I think overall, you keep saying the word trust. I think that's it. I really think it's trust throughout the entire league, and understanding that, hey, this we can use this and elevate ourselves to use it as a superpower, and it's not something that's going to affect our basketball game.
And if I could just add on to that, Kevin, because you and I have talked about this before, the reality is that you can be anxious or depressed and still be badass at whatever you do.
Right. By functioning.
That's right. And yes, you may have hard times, and there may be days when it's really tough, but you'll get through those tough times much easier when you're able to get away from having to hide it, when it can be out in the open. The recovery process to getting back on track is so much easier. Hiding it and not talking about it just contributes to the problem. So that's why we've always said, make it part of daily life. You've got your physical health and you've got your mental health, and both are essential to well-being.
Well, you talk about mental checkups. Like we every year we go in and we have a physical checkup. Very few people actually go in and have a mental checkup.
Yeah, I think they're equally important. We check up on our blood pressure. We should be checking up on how's our mood, how's our functioning, how's our motivation, where are we at? And, again, Kevin, I've mentioned this to you before, I really like what the Australian Football Association has done, because my sisters sent me some newspaper clippings showing that they will now list the disabilities for the week for injuries, and days that players need to take off for recovery from physical injuries and recovery from mental health. So they're doing a checkup each week on how are you doing. Do you need time to sort of step down and just recover a little bit? And that's really, really an excellent example, I think, of how to do this.
Yeah, the last thing, and then we have to go, but anxiety is good, like for an athlete. It's funny. I get nervous when I'm not nervous,
right?
If that makes any sense before a game. If I'm sitting before a game and I'm relaxed, I'm thinking this is not a good thing.
Yeah.
I think some people say, man, I get nervous and I'm scared. I get nervous and I'm actually more relaxed due to it. That's normal.
Yeah, well, anxiety, it's all about driving the mind and the body to meet the challenge. That's the whole purpose of anxiety. And so when you have a sporting event and you want to be at your optimal performance, a certain level of anxiety is really good. Excessive anxiety can get in the way, but a certain level of anxiety is really perfect. And I just wanted to mention, because I know you guys have to finish up here, for everybody out there, if you notice that during this Mental Health Awareness Month, you can take this time to just check in with yourselves or your family or your friends about how you're doing. And I'd encourage everybody to go to the UCLA COVID-19 care package, which is an online set of tools that are freely available at standtogether.ucla.edu, and that will give some good tips.
Well, I'd like to thank you both for joining me. Kevin is always nice. This is so much nicer. You're not raining threes on me, so this is a lot easier to see you this way. And it's good to be on with a real doc. So I really appreciate this, guys. And to everybody out there, go get your mental checkup. It's a good thing. It's a positive thing. Let's keep talking about it. Let's take the stigma away of mental health. It's no different than spraining your ankle. When you need treatment, you need treatment.
That's right.
That's right. Thank you.
Doc, thank you so much. Dr. Craske, thank you. Good to see you again.
Thank
you.
you.
Take care.